Hello everybody, this is Shady here, and next week, as we all know, we're finally going to get the full reveal of the Switch 2 and all the details, pretty much. I think we were expecting to see, the price, the release date, launch titles, and all sorts. But I want to talk about one thing in particular. So, obviously, as you guys know, one of the biggest third-party publishers, or the one who had the biggest presence on the Switch, was Square Enix. And as we all know, they haven't really announced much big for this year outside of the Dragon Quest 1 and 2 collection and recently Saga Frontier 2. There's not really anything big on the horizon. So yeah, I believe the reason why that is because they're going to have a really big presence at this Direct next week. I think it's just pretty obvious. And yeah, I kind of just want to talk about what I expect to see from them at this presentation. So obviously, as we know, I think, the first thing with the presentation, I think we're going to see all of Nintendo's details, and then we'll get their main developers talking. So I think we're going to get kind of a spotlight specifically on Square. So this is going to be very similar to, how we would see at an E3 or something, where when a console's revealed, different developers will kind of go over, they'll say the whole thing of, this is what the platform brings, blah, 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 and what we're going to do. And then they'll probably announce some games. So I think Square will probably announce some new titles as well as some ports. I think there's kind of been rumors about this already, but I think Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth will probably be coming to this thing. Personally, I think Remake will be a launch title, and Rebirth will probably be out either at the end of the year or the beginning of next year, maybe. More than likely next year. I'm also wondering if Part 3 will be multi-plat as well because of that. Because, now Nintendo have more powerful hardware. Could we potentially see, the Final Fantasy games coming to Switch and PlayStation simultaneously, potentially? I think it's a possibility, and it could start with a port of Rebirth. And I'm sure Remake, Rebirth, and probably 16 will probably come all. I'll be surprised if they don't, because all three games can run on the Steam Deck, and I imagine the Switch 2 could probably get better performance on the Steam Deck. It might not be technically as powerful in some departments, but this is a kind of look at what the Switch 1 was capable of. That could play The Witcher 3, which is kind of insane when you think about it. So yeah, I don't think it'd be out of the question. So I expect to see that. I think we're probably going to see something to do with one of these kind of supposed remakes or kind of rumored ones. More than likely, we're going to see, I think it's either Final Fantasy 9 or probably the Chrono Trigger remake. Both of these have been heavily teased throughout the years, and I think either one of those two would be a really big get for Nintendo. Whether they'll be exclusive, I don't know, but I think that's probably going to be the case. I also think probably going to see the announcement of maybe Octopath 3 or kind of the new Team Asano game, because obviously I think Octopath 1 was kind of one of the big kind of first Square Enix exclusives, so I think it only makes sense to see something new from them. It only makes sense, I think it's just those games in particular have been kind of sleeper hits, so I think it makes sense. And then obviously I think we're going to definitely see possibly something related to like Dragon Quest 12 maybe. I really wouldn't be surprised if we finally see, because I think this is going to be the big one personally, where we're finally going to see some sort of gameplay, possibly a release window. You know, it may be that it comes out in a couple of years or so, but they'll probably will, you know, if there's not a release date, there will at least be like a first kind of concept trailer, whether that'll just be a CG trailer that says Dragon Quest 12 or not, who knows, because yeah, it's been a couple of years now, isn't it, since this was released. I think it was a couple of years back at like a Dragon Quest kind of event thing or whatever, and then they've just gone silent since then. And I think, obviously, as we know, the Dragon Quest series sold really well on Switch. Kind of that portable gaming thing is massive in Japan, so I think it only makes sense to pair it alongside that system, and I think that's going to be Square Enix's big kind of mic drop thing. Kingdom Hearts 4, potentially, we may see something on that, because I don't think they didn't really announce any systems. I think we're expecting it to be PlayStation and PC, more than likely on Xbox. But potentially on Switch too. Obviously, that's going to be using Unreal Engine 5, so I have to wait and see on that one. But yeah, I don't see Unreal 5 being used for Dragon Quest 12. I'm also really interested to see what they do with 12 as well, because there's rumors that part of the reason why it's kind of been, you know, kind of gone silent is because there's a bit of internal discussion as to what to do. I think there's a lot of like, they wanted to reinvent the series, kind of not make it turn-based, but I would imagine there's a lot of kind of friction in the team because of that, or resistance for that, because I think, personally, I don't think that's necessary with the series, so I wouldn't be surprised if they maybe, you know, that's kind of been what it is. I would imagine it's going to be turn-based though, personally. I don't think we're going to change the battle system. Yeah, unless it's another online game or something. I just don't see the point. Yeah, and you know what? I think we may even finally see a English port of Dragon Quest X, potentially out next year, like a localized version of that. Yeah, and obviously, you know, as we know, Dragon Quest 1 and 2 will, I think, get a Switch 1 port as well, so, or Switch 2 port, sorry. Yeah, so I think, yeah, Square Enix is going to be the one to really look out for on this conference. So, obviously, you know, once this has happened, we'll look back at it, and yeah, see if I was right with any of my predictions. But yeah, anyway, guys, have a great rest of your day.